Welcome to the Poli-Sci Podcast. This is your host, Anthony Lindsay.
And Stephanie Moreno.
We're here with Bo Griffin. So, Stephanie, you have some questions for him.
I do. Hello, Bo.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you. My first question is, what are some of the challenges faced within turnaround schools in terms of academics, parent involvement, faculty, and staff development?
Well, of course, anything with education, the first thing always is difficult is dealing with finance.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just one of the beasts in our field right now. But as far as the parent involvement, it's very difficult because in turnaround schools, a lot of times most of the students, come from a single parent home, and those parents have to work, 2 jobs just to pay the bills, to try to give their children a better life, which is just one of these things that, we face every day. As far as the children go, it's not a problem. I mean, the kids are great. No matter where you go to school at, it be in the South, in the North, East, or West, kids are kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's one thing that we all got to remember, that, the kids want to be great, no matter where they're at, be it a turnaround school, be it the highest academic school. The kids want to be great.
I think a lot of times the socioeconomic factors get overlooked when it comes to certain communities. So you'll have kids in a predominantly minority community, and they'll face completely different challenges than say kids who are in the suburbs. So one of the problems is that they'll come from a single family household. So it comes with unique challenges for that particular kid. Like, do they pay attention as long? Like, or does that community get as much funding? So those are huge problems for your
but the one thing, Ms. Lindsay, I want everybody to understand is that, your demographics does not determine your destination. And that's very important. I do believe that education is a great equalizer, and that every child should have the opportunity to be successful in education. Unfortunately, being in a turnaround school, one thing that I've found more than anything else is that, the key to being successful in life is reading. And their reading levels, on average, are 4 to 6 years behind what it should be. That was the first thing that, when I took over a school, and, I went and had them all tested to see where their reading levels were. Mm-hmm. And after doing that in the school, we found very quickly that most students were having a phonics problem, which is it's easily fixed just through some effort. Oh. We had, really great kids that, didn't want to read out loud because they were embarrassed because they had difficulty reading. But after we showed them, and we used a program to help them there, it really improved their reading skills. And once you improve their reading skills, then you can improve a lot of other academic issues. Well, we also instituted a program where, basically, all the English language comes from about 33 words, and we tried to, we emphasize that in our RTI classes to help our students to understand the word. If you can understand these 33 basic words, it can help you understand any word you don't know. And that was a thing as well, that, we had to basically find the problem, and that's the key. You've got to find the problem before you can fix the problem. And once you find the problem, you have to be willing to fix the problem. And that's the thing. Once students find out you do care about them, they truly care what you have to say. And once they know you care about them and know that you have high expectations for them, because I do believe that is the key in education, is that we have to expect the most out of each and every student. Each and every student may be different, but we have to expect more than they think they can give themselves.
That sounds really important. These different federally funded turnaround models are viewed seemingly in favor of the transformation model. Can you explain some of the biggest differences for me in the two most used turnaround and transformation models?
Well, one of the biggest issues is that you get more funding for more staff members, more than anything else in the transformation model.
Okay.
In Shelby County Schools, which I'm in, we have it. We have the empowerment zone and the I zone, or innovation zone. And basically what it gives you is more teachers in the classroom. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, and trust me, I'm not a rocket scientist. If I can do it, anybody can. It just takes a lot of hard work and time, and you just got to care about the kids. But when you have a lower student-teacher ratio, instead of having 30 in a classroom, you have only 20. That makes a huge difference. You can give that individualized attention to those students. It's not about, and that's one thing I want everybody to understand. It's not about programs. It has, if there was one program out there right now, we'd all be doing it. And we would, you wouldn't have me on your show right now. We wouldn't have a problem with education. But the issue is people. People make the difference. Dr. Todd Whitaker said that best in his research. That, if it was just a program, then we'd have a big sign as you walked into school with the same slogan, with the same vision, with the same school mission across the country, and everybody would be great. So it truly is people that make the difference. That person or that educator has to get to know that student on a personal level and let them know that, hey, I care about you as a person.
Is that one of the biggest factors that you run into so far? Because I've heard research that suggested that the level of education of the teacher was one of the biggest factors. But Bill and Melinda Gates tried extremely small class sizes, and they I can't remember what their results were. So have you found like a correlation between student performance and the class size?
Yeah, yes, sir. I have. Just me personally, and talking with other educators in my field, it's a lot easier for one teacher to work with 20 students or 25 or less than it is 30 or 35. The more students you get in the classroom, the more difficult it is. It's just, I think it's just common sense. If I got 35 students in a classroom teaching any subject, it's difficult for me to, number one, to keep them all on the same page, to make sure that I am delving into the things that I need to reach all my students. But if I have 20, 25 or less, so to speak, it's a lot easier for me, number one, to get to know these students as people, and number two, to truly understand what is their deficiencies in education. Okay. Because as an educator, and especially a principal, I feel it's my job to get you ready for life. And if I take a student, be it an honor student, be it an AP student, or just a regular ed student, and you come into school in ninth grade, and you're at a fourth grade reading level, and by the end of your ninth grade year, you're getting ready to become a sophomore. Now you're reading at an eighth grade level. That's growth, and that's our number one thing. We have to grow our learners, and if it means that they start at fourth grade reading level, and we move them to a sixth grade or eighth grade, that's pretty good. But we also have to understand that we are really focusing on all the negatives of education. There's a lot of great things going on with kids right now that, we've got to push those AP students. We have to push those honor students to be even more than what they think they can be. So it's very important that we balance that out as well.
That's a fantastic
we're all about,
point.
Putting all this new money into, RTI and intervention and everything, but we've got to have some enrichment as well. And that's important because you can't leave anybody out of the school if you truly are going to turn it around.
So that was actually one of the arguments that got Betsy DeVos in trouble, is that she didn't understand the difference between proficiency and growth. It's fascinating to hear from like the grassroots level where it's like, no, we're measuring growth. Like, no, I strictly subscribe to the growth model. That's amazing.
That's important too, because Mr. Lindsay, I think that didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the thing that we have to understand is that proficiency means you are at a level you should be at. That's what proficiency basically is. Mm-hmm. That's where you should be, as the test takers, as the one who sets the bar. That's where you should be at. But I've always been since I was this common phrase in my house: you're either getting better or worse every day. You never stay the same. So I think Ben Franklin said, if you're not growing, you're dying, and it's true. That you've got to improve every single day.
Yeah.
And that, I would much rather have a student that grew, in their growth in any class, let's say 2 grade levels, than one that just was proficient. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. They're both vitally important. They go hand in hand, but that growth is the key to building lifelong learners.
So that makes perfect sense. And it will make sense that your growth is linked to the class size, at least in part. Because I would imagine that for me, like I go to UNC Charlotte, but we'll have a class size that maybe 300 students, and like there is no one-on-one with the teacher, but it's fine because I've developed the skills over like 17, 18 years of schooling. So it's like, it doesn't matter. Like I'm going to get the lesson anyway, but I couldn't imagine if in high school, middle school, I had a class of 300 people. You might as well toss it out the window. Like
y'all are exactly right. That's the thing too. And you got to understand, like in a turnaround school, if I had at least one parent in the home that had a high school diploma, not just education, but a high school diploma. They actually graduated from high school. It was, if I had 50% of that, we were doing really good, you know, and that was the thing that, you know, and these are good, hardworking people, you know, and the ones that, you know, you call upon, they will do anything for you. But, you know, there's only 24 hours in a day. And I'm sure y'all were very fortunate that, you know, you had somebody at home that said, hey, do your homework. Mm-hmm. They ask you how did school go. Well, it's kind of hard to do that when, you know, I go from this job, I'd work a miracle to not only just keep the lights on and keep food on the table, but to get you to school on time. Then I might come see you. I might see you before you fall asleep if you're lucky, because I'm working 2 shifts. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something that, you know, I was very blessed that I had parents and grandparents, and I had really great people in my life that held me accountable. But when you don't have anybody to hold that student accountable, kids will be kids. It's not natural to sit down and read. You have to, you know, work at that. You know, the human body is lazy. We know that. And, you know, with everything that these young men and women have nowadays, I'm very glad that I didn't grow up with social media and I didn't have all this technology. I'll be honest with you. Because, you know, it makes, you know, they would rather, you know, they're very good with their thumbs, by the way. You know that, right? They're real good with their thumbs, texting and playing Xbox and everything else. Yeah. So, you know, that's the thing, is that we have to give them opportunities and we have to educate them as why you need to do what you do. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times our students are asking questions. They're not doing it to be disrespectful or to rebel. They really want to know why. And once you take the time to sit down with them and tell them why, you know, if I had a nickel for every time I heard one of my students say, "Oh, okay, Mr. Griffin, that makes sense." Well, good. I'm glad you understand that. You know, because but you have to have build that personal relationship where, you know, it's okay to tell a student you love them. But, you know, like I tell them all the time, if I say I love you, I need something in return. And all I'm asking you to do in return is the do right mantra is be on time, be respectful, be ready to work hard. And that's the same rule I have for my teachers as well. And if you do those 3 things, life is a lot easier. It really is.
You sound like one of the teachers I had in high school, where he was one of the first teachers I ever had that gave me a reading list outside of the curriculum. And I think that a lot of teachers allow people to fall through the holes in the net, where you'll have a student who's very, very interested in a particular subject, but you have to move on because you have the next subject to teach, or you have the next lesson.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I want to learn about this particular thing that we're on right now, and I'll read 10 books about it if you inspire me to do it. So I had this one teacher, Russell Croto, who was in American politics was like a specialty, and so he gave me a book by Ayn Rand, and I very, very vehemently disagreed with everything that was in the book, and it was like, but it was the spark that led to like everything else. Like I literally became a political science major and like started this podcast and everything else because of that one ripple from that one teacher.
Could have been, yeah.
And you sound exactly like him. Like you sound like the one that would give a reading list to a student.
Well, you know, that's the thing too, is that, you know, that's what good educators in my life and your life and all our lives. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be in the classroom. They challenge you to think. You know, I think that, you know, I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to use a 4-letter word. I hate Socrates. Hated it. Okay. Yeah. I really hated my English lit class in college, but the thing was, it challenged me to think from a different perspective, you know, and it doesn't make it right or wrong, but it opens your mind to possibilities. And that's the key, is to challenge. We have to challenge ourselves every day as students, as educators. Any and all stakeholders have to challenge themselves to think, what can I do to make this young man or woman better every day? And with tying teacher salaries to testing results, to saying these things that, is it right that, I'm supposed to be responsible for this child that I have for 6 hours, 1 hour a day, because in high school, I only have you for 1 hour, that you're going to tie my paycheck to their results that has nobody at home, to push them, to hold them accountable. But like I tell my teachers every day, it is what it is. And I accept it as a challenge. When someone tells me I can't, I love that. Personally, please tell me I can't, because I will work 10 times harder to prove that you're wrong.
That's me too.
And, inside, how you want to say, yeah, I told you so, but I can't do that in public, so I don't. I say it on the inside, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
You got a little happy dance.
But, but that's the thing. We have to accept these issues, they're challenges. And just like everything else, and I was a former history teacher, and, I taught government and stuff. So you look throughout history, everything that came about was because of a challenge, be it because of war, be it of socioeconomic means, for political rights, from civil rights. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and it amazed me how many students that I had that had never been to the Civil Rights Museum. I said, y'all never been down to see where Dr. King was assassinated? Like, no, sir. Well, you know what I did? That's the first thing we did. I mean, I can't tell you how many students I've taken down to the Civil Rights Museum.
Yeah.
I want you to see, you think your life is bad? Look at this. And see how far we've came, but look how far we have to come, and then to challenge those students. And that's really good. There are some great curators at the Civil Rights Museum. If you ever get a chance to come down,
they talk
to students, and they talk to them on a one-on-one basis. And they say, now the torch has been passed to your generation. What are you going to do? And they challenge them to move the civil rights scale, because if you don't have to go very much further than Memphis, Tennessee, to see all kinds of history that has changed the world. So I just think we have to challenge our kids every day to just be better people.
What specifically is needed from the community when we call for active involvement?
Okay. Well, I think, the old adage that it takes an entire village to raise a child is true. The school that I was at Raleigh High School for 3 years. We were at a TVAS level of a 1, which is the very worst academic score you can have. Within 1 year, we went from a 1 to a 5, which is the highest. Wow. Our growth was through the roof. And it was simply because everybody has to understand, even if you don't have a student in the building, you're still paying, 75% of the community population is paying for 100% of the education. Your taxes are going to pay for education. You're not even reaping the benefits, so to speak, directly. Indirectly, you are, because if we keep sending students out with a high school diploma, that cycle of, the socioeconomic poverty is not going to change. So you've got to get your community involved. I can't tell you how many churches I went to. There's actually 23 in Raleigh alone, right in North Memphis. Just going and talking to people and not asking them, educators are terrible about asking for money. Biggest thing, hey, can you just come and talk to my kids? The community doesn't realize that students want to be doctors, lawyers. They want to be engineers. Well, they need to hear from those people what it really takes. I had a former student athlete of mine. He is a heart surgeon now at one of the major hospitals in Memphis. I said, John, can you do me a favor? Just come back and talk to them about what's going on. And they were like, man, you must be rich. He's like, man, I barely pay my bills right now. They're like, they're going crazy. Why? Well, I had to go to school for 12 years. You say that, they're like, oh my God, I ain't going to be a doctor. But when he explains to them, hey guys, there's a lot more to being a doctor than just, surgery. There's a lot more to being a doctor than, going to school for 12 years or making all this money. And when he starts explaining to them, like, for example, a student, made a C in biology. Don't tell that student he can't be a doctor. Tell him, hey, if you want to be a doctor, you can't make a C in biology because this is what it leads to, And I tell my kids all the time, if you're first in your class at medical school or you're the very last one to graduate, you know what they call you?
Doctor.
They still call you doctor. You're still a doctor. Yeah. I tell them that. But let me ask you, would you rather have this guy down here that was 300 out of 300 in his class or the one that's number 1 working on you? And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I would rather have that guy that's, summa cum laude and all that other stuff. But, that's the thing. The community members, just by taking pride, I gave my cell phone to all our merchants that had businesses on Raleigh Millington. And I told them, if you see one of my students in here during school hours, call me. I'll come get them. And it was amazing to me just going and talking to people because, we were at high crime rate, just letting them know, hey, I need your help. And when you reach out to people in the community and say, hey, I just need your help. And also, how can we help you? Example, Nike has a 3 million square foot factory in the Raleigh Fraser area. And they didn't even realize that we had a VOTEC class at school that our kids were getting certified to be forklift drivers. Well, a certified forklift driver makes $22 an hour. You can be 18 years old. You tell that to the kids, they all want to drive a forklift.
Yeah.
And the one thing that Nike needed was logistic workers, which we had in our VOTEC, and forklift drivers. I said, did y'all even realize that right down the street from you, we are certified forklift drivers? They're like, we had no idea. Well, how can we help you? I said, what kind of forklift do y'all use? Because, they're pretty much all the same, but there are certain ones, like Nike has a little different one for what they need for their product. They, came through and they gave the VOTEC school 2 brand new forklifts. Oh, wow. So as soon as they graduate high school, they can go right into working, making $22 an hour, and you don't have to train that person. And that's key for our community. We have to talk to our community, find out what they need of us. I mean, what's the one thing we're missing more than anything else in this world right now, at least in the United States? It's skilled labor. Mm-hmm. We don't have enough mechanics. We don't have enough machinists. We don't have enough metal shop. I mean, you name it, things that when I was in high school, you either went the college route or you went the industrial route. And we've gotten away from that. And it's really hurting us right now. And that's why most of our jobs are going overseas or going out of the country, not just because it's the cost, but also we don't have the skilled labor to do what we need them to do. And so we have to get our community on our side. It's imperative. For example, the football team went 12-1 this year, just got beat last week. The pride that people take in their sports programs, the pride they take in hearing good things. After we made our TVAS score and prevented the State Department from taking us over, I remember going and getting a Diet Coke at one of the little convenience stores, and then the guy says, "We're only a 5." I said, "Yes, sir, but 5's the highest you can be." He thought that that was a scale of 1 to 10, and he was just concerned about what can we do to help you to improve our scores. He has no children whatsoever in the school. Never had a kid in Raleigh.
Wow.
And he came and he had been reading the paper and been listening to, watching the media, the TV, and so forth and so on. But when you get people on your side that, sometimes you can go back to them when you really need something. When that community comes together, it makes a world of difference. It really does.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So if I gave you an unlimited budget for your school, what would you change? Are we doing pay raises for the teachers, tablets for the students?
I'm doing pay raise for me. What are you talking about? No, as a matter of fact, I'm going to give y'all two both. I got unlimited money. I'm going to give y'all both a raise too. So.
Nice.
But actually, yes, ma'am. What I would do is, first of all, I would increase my staff. That would be the first thing I would do.
Okay. Because
we are technology rich in most of our classrooms. Believe it or not, we're just usage poor. If that makes sense. You can have all the smart boards, Promethean boards, and and all that technology. But if that person in the classroom is not a good quality person, they got to be a quality person. They got to care about kids. That's the first rule. Mm-hmm. Number 2, they got to be educated in their field. You don't want to put Bo Griffin in a math class. Trust me. Yes, I taught economics. That's not real math. We all know that. Okay? I'm just going to be honest. Okay. That's not real math. You don't want me teaching your kid Algebra 1. Trust me. So you got to, like Colin said, you got to, get the right people on the bus. Yeah. That's true, but you got to put the right people in the right seats. You don't want the bus driver sitting in the back, if you know what I mean. Mm. We want the bus driver up front driving the bus. Yeah. There are certain people, you've got to know them. And it goes back to leadership. You've got to know your people. And you've got to, number 1, surround yourself with people that atone for your weaknesses. Like, for example, right now, my PLC coach is my literacy coach, Miss Emily Johnson. When someone comes to me about an English question, I go see Miss Johnson. If someone comes sees me about a math question, Go see my math coach. Can you read? Go see her. My vice principal, she taught science. So, and she was very good at it. There's a science question. She's over the science department. I'm over the history department. My other assistant principal, James Backus and Sherry McKinney, they were both CTE, or business classes. So they're over that. So that kind of thing, you surround yourself with people that you want strong people in the field, but they also have to be number one people. They have to be a people person. They have to care about kids. But then I would hire more staff so I can drop my ratio of my students to teacher in the classroom. Of course, if I had unlimited money, I'd give everybody a raise. Absolutely. Teachers don't get nowhere near the financial support that, at least in the United States, you look around the other countries in the world that are leading in education, supposedly, their teachers are some of the highest paid. But, Vanderbilt did a study that, tying academic success to teacher pay, there is no correlation between does it or does it not. I truly believe that it goes back to the person that's in that classroom. If you don't have a good quality person, educated quality person, then you're not going to have anything. But I would definitely increase the number of teachers on my staff to help my children.
So this is gonna be fascinating to see, because I imagine that over the next few presidencies, we'll eventually get someone in the education department that will fight to get a bigger budget for public schools in particular. There's been push lately for privatizing education and essentially doing away with public schools in general. But I don't think it's a failed experiment. I think that we actually, I don't know. I think there are some schools that are crushing it. There are some schools that there is legitimate growth, and there is a at the very least, if they were to compete, if public schools were to compete on the private market, then I think a lot of them would succeed, including yours. I think that it's got a legitimate shot, and I think those schools should still be
but
standing.
I do believe this, though, Mr. Lindsay, that, I did go to, I went to Harvard for a summer internship. Okay, I didn't go to Harvard. I'm a state graduate. Go state. But I will tell you this, that, and one of the things that was said, and while I was up there, and I was around private school educators, I was charter schools, public schools, home schools, online schools. I mean, we had a very diverse mixture of educators. But the one thing reigns true for all of them. We all have the same problem. We all have the issue where, parents are just dropping their kids off. Here you go.
Yeah.
Good luck. And until we all get on the same page as far as putting kids first in the public sector, private sector, charter schools, whatever you want to say, that's when we're going to make a real change. Education has become a very big business, but unfortunately, education is the one field you can't run as a business. It's just like government. If you ran government and education like a business, you would be out of business probably within 6 months.
Wow.
Let's just be honest.
Yep.
You cannot run this the way you run another business. I mean, these young men and women are not widgets. They're not just assembly line robots. Everybody wants to say, well, we got to have one program that works. No, there's more than one. We're FedEx in Memphis. Okay. But there's still UPS. There's DHL. There's still delivery systems. But, we have FedEx, Mr. Fred Smith, who has been just very gracious to education in Memphis. A lot more than he even wants people to know. Like I said on that, that's another fine example of a community member that has, he sees the big picture. Yes, education is important to me because most of my workers, they have to have at least a high school education. And I understand this, most jobs and most, manuals for, manual labor, most of the manuals they have to read to run the machinery is built on a college and career ready level. You have to have at least an 11th grade education reading level to read the books and understand them is what they're set at. Whereas, most newspapers in the United States are written on what? An 8th grade level at best. Most of them are written on a 6th grade level. So, that's what I mean. We have to expect more in that regard. And if we do that, when you set the bar high and you don't let kids or even educators, had a tough conversation with one of my former students, is one of my teachers now. I said, look, it's nothing personal. I love you. There's nothing I won't do for you, but you got to do your job. Because, you know, I've got a wife and 3 kids at home that's depending on my check too. And, you know, I could see that she was disheartened when I looked at her. I said, but let me tell you this. I believe in you. I know you can do this. If you need help, let me know. And that's the biggest thing too, as a leader. We have to talk to our teachers and get to know them and not be buddy, and I'm not your pal. I'm your principal.
Right.
You know, I tell them all the time, let me be your educator to the students. I don't want to be your principal. To my staff, I said, I want to be your colleague. I don't want to be your principal. Because if I'm your principal, I'm doing paperwork. And we know when you get paperwork from the principal, it's never good. So, you know, it really is. I get nervous getting called to the superintendent's office too. You know, I'm not going to lie to you.
That's fair.
You know, there's another little 4-letter word that jumps in my mind when I think about that old sugar honey iced tea, right? You can tell I got a 6-year-old. Can you tell?
Yeah, with the 4-letter word.
You know, yeah, but you know that's the thing too is that you know I do know I'm not like most principals. I'm the same guy you see at church, at Chili's, watching a game, or at school. And I think that's very important to be ourselves. But you've got to learn to laugh in this business, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Because some of the things that happen, you're just like, I cannot believe that our children have to go through this, you know. And it reminds me all the time how blessed I am to have people in my life that cared about me to hold me accountable. And I really believe more than anything else, accountability of yourself and others is the key to really making a difference in education.
It's really refreshing to talk to you and hear how much enthusiasm. It seems like you really got your head is focused on the kids, which as a parent, as a member of my own community, it's really nice to see that people like you are still out there.
There's a lot of us out there. You know, that's the thing. As educators, you know, we've always been taught to be humble and not to brag, but that's the problem as well. You know, I went to Arkansas State University. I caught a football. You know, that's why I went to college. I'm not going to lie to y'all. You know, after 3 years, I said, hey, you're fixing to graduate. I said, no, I'm not. I still got 2 years of football. So I got a minor. I always took, you know, 15 hours and never dropped a class because I just thought everybody went to class all the time. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, you know?
Yeah.
But it goes back to, you know, pretty good upbringing. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
No.
But, you know, the thing is that, you know, 99.9% of the issues we deal with every day, a kid usually comes and tells us before it gets out of hand. If people would walk with an administrator or a teacher every day, at the end of the day, I promise you, all you would do is turn to them and say, thank you for doing what you do. Because they have no idea what we do every day just to keep your kids safe, much less educate them. You know, I had a real good Jerry Wilson was my high school receiving coach. And one of the biggest reasons I got into education, he used to always say all the time, it's amazing to me how people, they think they can run a school just because they went to school. And it's true, you know. Everybody has all these ideas and they have all these things that's going to fix the system. But when they look at the work to be done, like, I don't want to do that. Of course you wouldn't. You know, it's just like, you know, it's the reality. So that's why I do believe education is a calling and not just a job. Because if you're just in it for a job, you're in the wrong job. I mean that.